research health, it is something that we can consider. Company of intellectual folks is something we can consider as highest form of richness. So today, here we are to have a wonderful feast for our minds and soul. So before we start our incredible journey, I would like to take you through some guidelines. So first, the guidelines are for media folks. So we want you to enjoy the event. So request you to focus on event, not on Infosys. The second thing, only our DC head is authorized to engage formally in any media conversation on behalf of Infosys. So please take note of same. There should be no photography apart from this event, of course. Having said that, we mean no photography or videography of any interiors of Infosys. No drones allowed unless and until you have specific permissions from security for the same. Request you that Infosys, its employees, partners, projects, investments, financials, everything should be kept aside at least for today. No Infosys center specific information, number of employees, anything to be mentioned by media. Campus tours are specifically arranged and we will take you through our campus later today. We will let you know on the plan later towards the event. For any assistance, for any guidance, we have our volunteers available. So they are available towards the entrance on the very first desk. So you can contact anytime Dr. Mandeep Walia, Lalit Singla sir, Saurabh Agarwal sir and Sir Sanjeev Demra sir. So having said that, I would just like to recite 2 lines saying, मंजिल उन्हीं की सपनों में जिनके जान होती है, पंखों से कुछ नहीं होता दोस्त, हौसलों से उड़ान होती है. So with that, I would like to give mic to Anandita for taking you to the incredible journey. Request you to keep a note on the round button besides your mic. So whenever you want to speak, please press it and post that disable it, because as long as you will keep your mic enabled, nobody else will be able to enable their mic. Okay? Thank you. Over to you, Anandita.
Good morning, everyone. It is an honor to welcome you all on behalf of Inkreadible to the Writers Festival 2023 in association with Novel Bunch, Vibrant Networking Forum, and of course Infosys, who has given us the pleasure of this beautiful venue. Speaking of Inkreadible and Novel Bunch, they are literary art groups co-founded by Mr. Hardeep Chandpuri, Ms. Saguna Jain, and Ms. Shona Singh. Novel Bunch is a group of like-minded professionals from various walks of life with a literary bent of mind. Books, music, literary interactions, and getting people more immersed in the world of words is their motto. It is a novel platform, that of a human library, where people share, care, and connect on a personal level. It's a motley mix of experiences, discussions, and ideas exchanged over meaningful conversations. Vibrant Networking Forum is a high-level interactive group of professionals who like to ideate and confabulate with each other as well as the rest of the world. The forum holds regular speaker events followed by networking meetings. Fortunate are those who, in this world full of Google, Facebook, and WhatsApp, continue to grow their own garden of creative writing and spreading fragrance around. Today's event is to honor all these lit gardeners. We have some very interesting sessions lined up for the day, beginning with a welcome note by Mr. Abhishek Goyal and Mr. Vivek Atre, followed by the keynote address by General VP Malik, PVSM, EVSM. Mr. Abhishek Goyal, Vice President and SOH Infosys, is an alumnus of XLRI Jamshedpur and IIT Kanpur. He is head of the Chandigarh Center for Infosys. He's a senior technology, cloud and digital consulting leader, an executive having 26 years of experience. He leads several large accounts for Infosys in the area of cloud and IT infrastructure services. Under his leadership, this center has won the Best Center Award for Excellence at Infosys level for 2019. Sir, may I please request you to deliver the welcome.
Good morning to all of you. My name is Abhishek, and I think that introduction was not required about the cloud and IT infrastructure in this team. So essentially, I am the center head and vice president in Infosys. I have been with the company for the last 23 years, and I don't come from this field, this area of literary art and all, but I can definitely appreciate what you bring to the table. So today, on behalf of Infosys and 10,000 Infosians in this campus, I welcome you all to this beautiful campus. And it's a bright sunny day, and I think just like the sunshine is essential for the trees and the flowers and the entire ecosystem, I think all of you also bring sunlight into this room today. And I definitely feel that we'll all get warmth and rays from all of you and get more enlightened during the course of the day. So thank you for coming here. And today we would also like you to show the campus, so please feel free in the course of the day to walk around, see the campus. And this is one of the smallest campuses for us. This is the small, I think, replica of the bigger campuses we have around the globe. I think we have got some of the best campuses in the entire world for any corporate, any university. Our Mysore campus can host 10,000 people in one go for training, and it's almost like a palace. So we also welcome you to be part of the other campuses as you go along in your journey, and we can obviously enable that. So I believe this is a forum which is bringing together all the literary minds of this region. So I think this is a great initiative by the Vibrant Forum and the Incredible Writers in the Novel Bunch. I congratulate you for bringing this forum to Chandigarh and to Infosys as well. And I welcome all the kids, all the Infosians, and obviously all the writers, authors here to this forum today. Mr. Vivek Atre, an ex-IAS officer, I think known to all of us. He's a very famous personality, a motivational speaker, author, visiting professor, mentor, and he has done so many wonderful things for us, for Infosys also in the past, for bringing this campus to life. So thank you, sir, for again allowing us to enable this function today. And I would also like to welcome our personalities, General VP Malik, General Bhupinder Singh, General KS Man, and other dignitaries to this campus today. General Malik needs no introduction. He is a PVSM, AVSM, served as the 19th Chief of Army, Indian Army between 1997 to 2000. He has been the Army Chief during the Kargil War, and who can forget the Kargil War? He's also an author and for many renowned books, and one of the best and the most celebrated army officers in the history of the Indian Army. So big accolades for gracing the occasion with this kind presence today. General Bhupinder Singh, can you raise your hand please? Yes. PVSM and also former Lieutenant Governor of the Andaman and Nicobar Islands in Pondicherry. He was the former military, naval and air attached for East and Southern Africa, headquartered at Addis Ababa. He also is an eminent writer, authoring multiple inspiring books. Thank you, sir, for coming here and enlightening us. General KS Man is here. General KS Man, good morning, sir. PVSM, former DG Inventory. He has held various staff appointments to include Brigade Major of a Brigade and Colonel GS of 3rd Infantry Division in Ladakh. He also has been an instructor at the Infantry School at the College of Combat and Defence Services Staff College. I hope you got it right, sir. Your introduction. So again, and I think beyond these three gentlemen, we have many other senior army personnel, many other authors. Again, welcome and enjoy the day. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker, Mr. Vivek Atre, an electronics engineer from NIT Kurukshetra, is an IS officer turned motivational speaker, mentor, advisor, columnist, and a visiting professor. He is the co-founder of Suvichar Think Tank, Vibrant Networking Forum, Playwright Foundation, Chandigarh Literary Society, and co-convener of InTouch Chandigarh. He has authored several books and writes a fortnightly column, Random Forays, for the Hindustan Times. So please.
General Malik, Abhishek, eminent panelists, guests, writers, listeners, ladies and gentlemen. It's such a pleasure to be here today for various reasons. General Malik and I are part of something called Suvichar, which was mentioned, which we need to do a lot more about. I know, sir. Just an aside, this year we'll do a lot of think tank activities. But today, I really want to welcome all the speakers and all the attendees to this very refreshing event. I say refreshing because of two reasons. Number one, we are in a technology campus where ordinarily, as Abhishek said, you wouldn't have literary activities happening. However, Infosys Chandigarh has welcomed speakers off and on, and I've also been one of them, to discuss, elaborate upon life itself. But today, this incredible group of novel personalities, Inkreadible and Novel Bunch, have brought together what is a plethora of minds. And these minds in this room, from the youngest to the senior most, I don't like the word old too much, is just so exciting. Just the right numbers seem to be there in the morning session. Hopefully we'll have the right numbers post-lunch as well. And Inkreadible and Novel Bunch are primarily an initiative of discussions that Hardeep Chandpuri, Saguna Jain, and I and a few other friends who are all here had a few weeks and months ago, deciding that Chandigarh still needs an injection of creativity and still lacks perhaps what Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore, Kolkata and other cities have in terms of vibrant creative activity. Vibrant Forum also is pleased to be participating in this event, and that is another organization which is bringing in the same kind of zest. I totally agree with Abhishek that it's a morning with a difference. It's sunny, it's bright outside, but it's also bright inside. And I see faces and minds. I mean, over the years, when you meditate a little more, you can probably read what's going on in people's minds. And I just leave out the uneasy parts. I only see the good parts in your minds. And that meditation has given me a feeling now that you're all very cheerful and looking forward to this event. General Malik is our keynote speaker, and he is just a fabulous, inspiring personality. Dr. Anjana Malik and he were on my show, if I can mention it. I have a Good Vibe show, and what a conversation we had, which has inspired many, many who've watched it. I think to be on stage with him is a pleasure and a privilege, and both my previous book launches were adorned by his presence. I think the first panel, which I'll just mention, there are several tremendous panels coming up, but to be moderated by Colonel Chima with the presence of General Bhupinder Singh and General Maan. And I'll have to check the seniority, sir, pardon me on that. But in the IAS, we are slightly more liberal with seniority. In the army, I know we are very fastidious, and we should be. Also, we have many other senior dignitaries here. My welcome to them as well. And to the junior most dignitary, who is the youngest out of the school kids here, please raise your hands. Please decide quickly and let me know. What's your name?
Gavin.
Gavin, with a G?
K.
K, okay, Gavin. So Gavin and friends, welcome, because that's the future. And all those who are going to speak here will be shedding light on their topics, but I hope a lot of youngsters will watch these videos as well later. It was not possible for us to invite hundreds of youngsters here, and I think 70 or 80 is a good number to start with. So with that, I would like to just say that it's a joy to be here, And as Abhishek said, I have a little affinity for the Infosys campus here because the first time I saw this campus, it didn't exist. And I was the one who was helping with the drawings of the IT park, and to be speaking here today is just a wonderful sign. We also have people from Shulini University here. Manju Jaitka ma'am has come all the way, and Charanjit ji is also associated, and perhaps someone else also. Captain Rajesh Trehan is somewhere here, and we also have a few other friends, so welcome to them as well. And Nilesh Kulkarni ji has come all the way from Delhi to speak today. That's a warm welcome to you. Anyone who's come from farther than Delhi, please raise your hands so that I can mention them as well. Thank you and all the best. And sir, looking forward to your note, but I think Anandita will introduce you. Thank you, sir.
More rewarding than a man's who may be asked what he did to make his life worthwhile, and he responds with a great deal of pride and satisfaction, I served in the Indian Army. It is an absolute honor. It is an absolute honor to have General VP Malik, PVSM, AVSM, here with us today. General Malik was Chief of Army Staff of the Indian Army.
I think we can leave that because already lot has been said already. So just skip that, don't worry.
Alright, then I think we can move on to post-retirement. After retirement, he was a member of the National Security Advisor Board for 2 terms, advisor to the Center for Policy Research, and President, Institute of Security Studies, Observer Research Foundation, New Delhi. The General was given Excellence in Leadership Award by Atul Foundation, Pune, Distinguished Fellowship of the Institute of Directors, New Delhi. He has authored Kargil, From Surprise to Victory, and India's Military Conflicts and Diplomacy. He is here with his wife, Dr. Ranjana Malik. A warm welcome to you, ma'am. Sir, I request you to please share your thoughts with us.
Thank you, very element girl. Abhishek Goel, Vivek Atre. Everybody is a friend here. I don't know how many names can I take. So, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I must thank the writers, Inkreadible writers, for asking me to come and join you here and participate in this session. It's always a pleasure to meet people who have been reading, writing, discussing. I think that's the best hobby that one can have, the best pastime if one can have, whether you are young or you are old. And today I find that the word incredible has now got a separate meaning altogether. Great of you people to think, make it incredible for people who like to read and write. Well, congratulations. When Cousin Chima told me that I have to speak here, I thought I was coming to listen, but when he said that no, you have to speak also. So I just thought, some random thoughts came to my mind and what to say really. And I thought the easiest thing to say is about your life journey. And I'm not going to cover the whole journey, but I joined NDA at the age of 15 and a half, and I became a commissioned officer at 19 and a half. So it's been an incredible journey for me in the army when I retired in 2000. But what I thought was that, they say change is constant. And every profession keeps changing. Some change faster, like the technology people. Some change a little slower. Some change even slower than that. And army also has been changing. Over the years that I have spent in the army, 46 years or so in uniform, and then after that almost 22 years in and outside the world, noticing the change that has been taking place. They say that the two most important thing in any profession are human resource, and second is the human capital or human resource as you can, and the second is the wherewithal that you have, technology, you have, as far as the armed forces are concerned, the weapons and equipment, things of this nature. And I have always believed now, in fact taught by the army, that human resource is more important than the wherewithal or technology that you have. I'm not saying that it is not important. Technology, wherewithal is important. But finally, I think it is the human resource which enables you to achieve a victory in very difficult circumstances also, which I have seen during Kargil war. So there are social changes taking place even in the armed forces. And whether it is our leadership style or our way of life in the armed forces, it has been changing. And I thought I'll just share some thoughts on that with you. Let me first start with the leadership. The other day, I was, a friend of mine, Gopal Krishnan, I don't know how many of you know him, he was board of directors of the Tata Sons together, great author again, you know. He's written many books, I think, almost about 15, 16. Met me at the airport and he said, General, why don't you write about leadership? So I said, my take on leadership is very simple. He said, no, you have something special to add from the armed forces and all. So I said, yes, there is no doubt that leadership is the most important aspect in the armed forces. But I don't want to write a book because there is not so much that I can write. I have just a few simple takes on that. So he says, kya hai? You know, we are good friends, so we're sitting there. It was in the Bombay Advani lounge at the airport. So I said, first, you know, the difference between us and the others in all other professions is that our leadership training starts from the time that you join the armed forces. Whether it is a Sipahi who has to strive to become a last Nayak and Havaldar, at every step he has to keep learning to be able to pick up the next rank. And similarly, as far as the officers are concerned, they have to keep learning every step. So the training never stops as far as we are concerned. And thank God that kind of a thing, that kind of an institution will continue. That is a major difference between us and other professions, including the corporate world. I've spent 22 years now being on the board of some companies as an independent director, and this is what I keep saying. I said that in corporate world it starts with the vice president onward that you start thinking of leadership and all. But in our case, it is right from the beginning. And the other thing I will mention to you, I said for us, leadership is part of being a family, which the corporate world still doesn't think that way. For us, you know, the spouse counts a lot. She has to share a lot of responsibility. And we always say a unit lives like a family. Formation also you live like a. In fact, if you ask me, the whole family, the whole army also becomes service becomes a family. And that is, while in the corporate world and in most other professions, you talk to each other, but you don't get involved with the families. And we believe that being part of the family, a creation as well as being part of the family, it helps us to fare better in our profession, to do better in our profession. So it adds to your professional competence, it adds to your professional efficiency, And so that is why the family becomes extremely important, and we have been always laying stress on that aspect. The other thing, when I joined the army, it was a very simple, it was not such a large army, it was a much smaller army, and everything was quite simple, frankly, if you ask me. Most of our men came from rural areas. Now a very large number come from the urban areas. But those days, they were very, very simple. My own regiment had only 4 battalions, and 99% boys came from scheduled castes in Punjab, and extremely simple. And just to narrate some of these incidents, we were flying in 1962, October-November, we were flying from Jammu to Ladakh when the war was on. And me and my JCO and a few others, we were sitting in a Dakota with no door on that, because that Dakota was meant for airdrops those days. So there was no door on that, and we were just hanging on to each other or whatever you could hold, and flying through Zojila Pass and other places. And those days, those Dakotas did not have the capacity to go high, so they literally had to go weave their way through the valleys in that area. And because they were going so low, so there were a lot of air bumps, so to say. So for some time, my JCO who was sitting next to me, he started wondering, कि साहब है की हो रहा है? And then he looks at me, he says, साहब प्लेन थोड़ा थल्ले लग रहा है किसी जगह. ड्राइवर को कहो थोड़ा ऊंचा लाएगा. I'm just talking about that, And then I'm talking about those days. That was our black was black, white was white. There was no grey, so to say. And then again, another incident I will mention to you. We had to construct bunkers, immediately, because the war was on at that time. And from the base of the mountain, every day you had to climb almost about 7,000-8,000 feet to start making bunkers, mostly with cordite and all these things. You had to take bullies and sheets. Everybody had to carry those while climbing all the way. And it was a tough climb, high altitude area. But our boys were great. And carrying bullies or carrying a CGI sheet on the head, there was a chap who kept singing all the way as we were climbing. After some time, he stopped singing, obviously because of the high altitude. I mean, everybody would get affected. You have to. So I was following him, and I said, "Ki ho gaya? Tera gana khatam ho gaya." So he looks at me, he says, "Saab, chabi khatam ho gayi." No, those are the simple these things. Today, it is not so. Even in the army, things have changed. Things are changing so fast. Although I always keep saying that, look, our profession is slightly different. It's a blood-stained profession. And therefore, in our profession, the changes must come, but changes should come slowly, and everything should be weighed. How does it impact our profession? You can't afford to lose a war in any country, And no forge is worth it if it starts losing war. So the other day, I'm just narrating, these are all random thoughts that are coming in my mind, and I'm sharing that. There's no, I wrote down something, but I don't think worth reading that. The other day we had a discussion on TV channel after the Supreme Court gave an order, or rather said that adultery is not, you cannot punish a man for adultery. That has been so, I think, since for last few years in the civil courts, but the armed forces had appealed that, look, this should not be applicable to us. So Supreme Court took its time to say that yes, it's a punishable offence as far as the armed forces are concerned. So I was asked to join the debate, and the anchor incidentally happened to be a daughter of a Major General. And she's married now in civil, obviously, because she kept on defending कि ये क्यों हो रहा है, क्यों दिया आपको? Why should this be a punishable offence? And I had to defend that. I said that there is some justification in that. And the justification is simple. We're talking of family. We talk of brother officers. You know, everybody is a brother officer, for the men as well as for the women also who are there. So I said that, look, there is a certain code of conduct. These are all so hard on which our traditions are built and on which we keep. That is what makes us different, you know. The honesty, the integrity, the brotherhood, loyalty to each other and all. These are hard terms that you start using right from the time you join the army. From NDA, from IMA days. You know, these are things, these are dinned into you. So, when you are talking of brother officers, when you are talking of gentlemen or gentlewomen, that conduct, so you cannot have adultery in this kind of a situation, because we spend a lot of time in field areas, the families are left behind, and you cannot have a doubt in your family this thing. So I kept on defending. Of course, the anchor did not like it, but I told her, I said, this is what the difference is between the armed forces and the people outside. We have a large number of, I think I must mention it also, that the Constitution does not allow us the kind of freedom that the ordinary citizen enjoys. You know, there are certain, don't do this, don't do that for us. We cannot, in service I cannot join politics. And even after service I did not join politics, although I know that some people have joined politics after service. But I'm just mentioning this thing. So the life in the armed forces has always been different, and it will continue to be different. And as somebody just now said, that there is no greater profession than the profession of the army, and I still believe that. So, just thoughts as far as our way of life and our society is concerned. While the society is changing, we will also be changing slowly. But I think our society, in the military society, will be changing even slower than that. And there is one subject which needs to be discussed, written and discussed. And that subject, I believe, is military psychology. It is different. And therefore, you know, when we discuss psychology, the schools, colleges and all, we talk about it, there should be a separate, I would say, this aspect, military psychology issues should also be discussed. What is that is different in the military society as such, and why it is so. The other thing I thought, I just mentioned it, again it's a passing remark on random thought, as I said, is our strategic culture is also changing today. Thank God for it. I'm talking of our country. Our country has, because of colonialism that we have suffered, all that which has gone on. And even after that, after independence, somehow that aggressiveness was not there in our nation to defend itself. In fact, we fought more with each other than with outsiders also. So that culture also is changing. Again, you can consider it part of military society and a certain amount of part of military psychology also. Because I have seen over the years now myself, when we had the first so-called surgical strike on the other side, and there was so much of noise made, justifiably I guess, And then somebody from the opposition party, he rang me up. He said, General Saab, जब आप चीफ थे तो आपके भी टाइम के ऊपर ऐसा हुआ था? वैसे हाँ हुआ था और होता था, लेकिन डिफरेंस इज कि उस वक्त हमको नहीं बोला नहीं जाता था इसके बारे में, और जब हम करते थे वो चुपचाप करते थे, क्योंकि उसके बाद में अगर हम बता देते थे then people used to ask questions. I mean, Bhupinder, Kulwant, we are all here those days. If you went across, you sent some patrol across, you were asked question कि क्यों किया, उसकी body को, you know, more and more interrogation was there. But today it is different, and that little bit of aggressiveness for a nation, I think it is good. That if somebody tries to hurt you, you should be able to hurt him also. And that change which is taking place gradually, it is coming about. I'm not getting involved in politics as such, but that change is coming about, and that is also a part of the change in our society. And I'm so glad to see that even in the army that change is taking place. You know, now you can go and say that yes, I have done it, and I have done it for this reason. Where earlier we used to keep quiet, now people are able to talk. So, I mean, I think I just mentioned there are certain aspects in our strategic culture where I feel still we are not, there are two issues frankly. One is that in our democracy, we still haven't, we are not hearing the military voice as much as we ought to when it comes to policy making and decision making. I think that requirement continues. It needs to be improved. That is one aspect. And the second aspect that I always say is that unfortunately there is no political guidance in our country, because most of the politicians have never served in the armed forces. They have not read much of military history. Very few people, you know, who went. And therefore, when it comes to policy making, decision making, I've seen it myself. You first have to tell them, okay, look, these are the implications, and therefore take a decision accordingly. If you do not tell them, then, or if you do not convey it properly, as it happens in Pakistan quite often. One of the reasons why Nawaz Sharif had no idea as to what has happened, because Pervez Musharraf never told him कि क्या हो रहा है और उसका इसकी implications क्या हैं. That should not happen in a good democracy. And therefore, either the politician should know as much as possible, and if not, then the implications have to be made clear by the military man whose actions are going to create this. So that is another aspect I think we have to create, and I think more and more books that we read and more narratives that we have, hopefully that it will, even the military issues will be known better in public, and once they are known better in public, the politician will have to understand that also. With these thoughts, I just want to say thank you very much once again, and thank you for calling us, Vivek and Abhishek, and wish you all the best. I'm sure that we're going to have an incredible session on this thing. Wish you all the best. Thank you.
It's often said, no guts, no glory, no legend, no story. With those words said, I would like to introduce you all to the illustrious speakers of our first session of the day, Guts and Glory. Lieutenant General K.S. Maan, PVSM, a graduate of JSSC Australia, Higher Command and Army War College, USA, was commissioned in the Bihar Regiment in June 1960. In an outstanding professional career, both in command and staff, he raised a battalion, commanded 2 brigades, one of them in high altitude, and a division as part of the Strike Corps. He has held various staff appointments to include Brigade Major of a brigade and Colonel GS of 3rd Infantry Division in Ladakh. He's also been an instructor at Infantry School at the College of Combat and Defense Services Staff College. Sir retired as DG Infantry. May we have a loud round of applause for him, and I request you to please come up on the dais. Lieutenant General Bhupinder Singh. Lieutenant General Bhupinder Singh, PVSM, AVSM, has had a distinguished career in the Army, which saw him participating in the 1965 and 1971 Indo-Pak Wars and counter-insurgency operations in J&K and Northeast. He served as the Military Secretary to Presidents of India, Shri K.R. Narayanan and Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. Post-retirement from the Army, he was appointed as the Lieutenant Governor of Andaman and Nicobar Islands and Puducherry for over 6 years. He has over 750 published articles and contributes regularly to national dailies like the Times of India, Indian Express, the Tribune, etc. He has authored 2 chronicles, Knitting with Opinions and Continuing Opinions in Difficult Times. His books have had the rare distinction of finding a place in the National Congress Library at Washington, D.C., USA, besides many other libraries. May we have a round of applause for him, and I request you, sir, to please come up.
Please. Thanks.
They will be in conversation with Colonel D.S. Chima. He's currently a professor of practice at Shulini University, Solon, and is a postgraduate in management and engineering. He has been associated with management education for the past 38 years as faculty for MBA programs in armed forces, universities including Punjab University and other institutions. He has authored 18 books and has contributed more than 560 articles in national English dailies and Tehelka magazine. Recognizing his intellectual contribution, he was awarded the Punjab Ratan in 2008. May we have a round of applause for him, and I have the special place.
Thank you, Ananta. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's my great pleasure that General Malik and Ma'am Ranjana Malik are also sitting right in front of me. Thank you, sir. Thank you for joining me. First thing first, I must thank Inkreadible for having this our version of little military fest, because we're going to have the first session on gut and glory is going to be and it is my great privilege and honor that being a member of Inkreadible and also a former soldier, I get this opportunity to host the first session of Cut and Glory. Thank you, sir, for staying back with us for this session. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we all know that armed forces are perhaps our armed forces, the best in the entire world as far as a fighting force is concerned. Voluntary and, of course, apolitical. Yeah. We are proud of that. And Indian Army is an island of excellence, if I may say, in a mediocre system. All right. And we are all, the entire nation is proud of the gallantry, valor, and the historical, incredible, charismatic leaders, the way they have done wonders for the entire nation. We are all grateful to them. It is also my privilege to announce that the national hero, Brigadier Chandpuri, Brigadier Kuldeep Singh Chandpuri, his worthy son, Hardeep Chandpuri, who is doing a wonderful job to take care of culture in this region, is also with us. Hardeep, kindly stand up and let everyone have your question. Thank you. Sir, as we all know, that all wars and all military operations are extension of politics. And that brings me to the first question. You see the kind of courage the military leaders used to have to stand up to the politicians for their professional advice. I feel over the years it has been waning and it is perhaps vanishing. I'll request General Man to be the first to kindly comment on this, and after that, Jal Bhupinder Singh, and sir, 3 minutes each, if you don't mind. Yes, sir.
It's at the bottom actually.
Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Chima. I would have liked to finish this question in 30 seconds. I really don't think the words which is used that maybe the senior officers totally lack courage to come up to the politicians. I don't think that would be a right way of looking at it. We must remember that we are fortunate that ours is a democratic. In a democracy all over the world, the civil government, elected civil government, takes precedence over all other elements. Army or the armed forces are one element of the government, one arm of the government. However, there is a difference. Armed forces are the last resort for any government to be used in any war. We go to war only when all other means of resolving a problem have failed. If that be the case, if you go to war and the armed forces lose, the country is finished. Therefore, to that an extent, it is imperative on the senior officers, like the Chief mentioned earlier on, it is imperative on all senior officers when given a task to wait in that context. What comes first? Of course, the nation comes first. If at any time a senior officer feels that this task will have great ramifications, which would be very detrimental to the country, he must not. He must go up. He must have the courage to go up and tell his boss, the defense minister, the prime minister, the cabinet, whatever it is, that this should not be done this way. These are the remedies.
So you're right, but what I had in mind was a decision like Agniveer, for example. The people in the armed forces do understand, and they understand it better than others, that maybe this is not the best decision in the interest of the armed forces. So that is what I had in mind. Somebody like Sam Manik Shah, who stood up and said, no, it cannot be done and it will be done only in a particular time frame. Now that kind of courage, moral courage to stand up and say that, I suppose that is what I was referring to you.
Okay. No, you're absolutely right. Example to be given is General Manik Shah. 71 war, you all know that in the month of March, cabinet meeting, he was told that go to war straight away. And he came out and then asked for a private meeting with the Prime Minister, where he told her, no, we should not go to war at this time, because the eastern side, we only got a meter gauge. Okay, we don't have proper roads to take our tanks. We don't have bridges which will have to be reconstructed or refurbished. And I need time. On the other hand, he also brought out that winter time is the ideal time because the passes will close and China will not be able to interfere to that an extent. And it was listened. But coming on to Agniveer, my own personal views are it was an immature decision. It shouldn't have been done. General Malik brought out earlier on that changes have to be brought in. Change is a must. The whole world is changing. Technology has changed. Okay, the human resource which we are getting has totally changed. When I joined the service, Adivasis from Bihar were 4th class pass. My Subedar Major did not know how to write and read. An educated clerk was kept with him to keep an account and prepare the ledger in the treasury. But that's not so. So changes have to come in. I feel this change has not been brought in properly.
Thank you.
There are various reasons.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
But I'll also like to say that I think it is on record that the last chief objected to this.
Okay. Sir, with this, your views on this.
Thank you, Colonel Chima. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Before I answer this particular thing, let me say at the very outset that I was fortunate enough to have got some assignments outside my military domain. And let me also say that they were indeed very educated, very enlightening. It broadened my military horizon also. It was a godsend opportunity for me to have served under the two most illustrious presidents of our country, Shri K.R. Narayanan and Dr. Abdul Kalam. Today I write so much is because of the guidance I got from a man like Shri K.R. Narayanan, who was an intellectual giant. And besides that, one learned so many aspects of human qualities like humility, maturity, and so many other values from these two very towering personalities. Now coming to your question, sir, about the waning moral courage, and I agree with you, sir. Yes, it is true. We do not have a Timaya or a Manekshaw today who could speak up with courage to the powers that be. But let me hasten to add that this is a societal decline and decay which is taking place over the years. And we are a part of the society at large. We are no different from that angle. If I may put it this way, that yes, earlier on, I am trying to give the reasons for this, is that there was an environment where you probably could speak up and say so many things. Today, I would frankly admit that yes, we lack the courage to speak up because there's a fear, there's a sense of fear in the environment. I write so much, sir. As you said, I read over 750 articles. And you can go on the Facebook and read all those articles. Number of times I've been told that no, I must pull back, I mustn't write so much, or you might land up in trouble. But no, that hasn't stopped me. But I think this the reasons why people today is that people would not like to hear contrarian views on certain issues. So that may be one of the reasons. The second thing, of course, is that earlier on, sir, if I may put it very frankly, the reward was for competence. Today, the reward is not only for competence, but another thing has been added is a loyalty also. So sometimes, that's why you find today in a lot of high appointments where probably there are super sessions being done, you won't like a man who's very strong morally to take that job and put up his views in a very fearless manner. The other thing, of course, I don't want to mention too much, is the partisan loyalty. Yes, nobody stops us from joining political parties, not at all. But the courage to speak up your own views.
Thank you, sir.
I think important.
You
I
have
have a word on the Agniveer, sir.
You have, yeah.
Agniveer, let me say that any dissenting views are most welcome. They should be there. As General Malik also mentioned, that any time you take on a decision on military matters, I think the military participation has to be there. And I hope it was there during, before this decision was taken. But I think experimentation in the army is, you have to pay a very high cost and a very high risk is involved. So therefore, well, we can only leave it at that, yes, the experimentation is on and I hope it works out. But as a DGMT, when I retired, I can tell you, I was only able to train a soldier. But to train a man in 4 years to be a technocrat and a soldier and do all the things, well, I leave it to anyone's imagination.
Thank you, sir. As a matter of fact, to train a man in 4 years to be able to lay down his life for the nation, I think it is a very difficult kind of thing. Now, sir, coming to the second question. You see, we are a democracy which we keep shouting at the top of rooftops always that we are a great democracy. But in our kind of democracy, which I call deformed, diluted and distorted, in that also, does an ordinary citizen have the right to know about the factual position on our borders? What is happening? I am not talking of deployment or strategy or tactics or things like that. But otherwise, what is what? Does the citizen have the right to know that? Sir, Ajal sir.
I think every citizen has a right to have basic information. But at the higher echelons of government, there are certain secrets which cannot be revealed and should not be revealed. Okay, but for example, I know what you're referring to, Chinese incursions in Ladakh.
Yes.
I disagree with the views that no piece of land has been taken away. We all know that fair amount of land has been taken by the Chinese. Areas which we used to regularly patrol, we are unable to patrol. But the government at all forums has been saying that no area has been lost to the Chinese.
That, sir, your view.
Unequivocally, yes, I think every citizen has a right to know. Nobody, I think, in our country would like to know the operational plans or the various state secrets. Nobody is keen for that.
Obviously, we are not talking.
But generically, sir, speaking, the information must be told to the people in general. After all, we have our two neighbors, China, Pakistan, who are there on our borders. And if people are keen to know on the general status, I think there is no harm in conveying to them that this is what it is, sir. Sir, there is no denying the fact that what we lost in '62 and all that. And there should be no water boundary in these issues, That happened that time, this happened that time, and we lost so much. It's perfectly fine. We lost, we paid the price for that. But today, I think if there is some issues that the civilians are keen to know, I think it should be
Sir,
conveyed.
the fact is that if the government says so, it has some kind of authenticity. People in any case come to know about these things from other sources. There are so many sources available and people do come to know about many things.
That is
And
true, sir. And in the credibility of the media
credibility
today
of the media
is
today-
a big question mark.
What it is,
And therefore,
yes.
I think, generally speaking, people must
Yes.
inform. The country would like to know.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. That brings me to another point. You see, men don't lay down their life only for monetary benefits. What they expect is that after they retire, they lead a life of dignity, self-respect and honor. Unfortunately, because the people in uniform, the ex-servicemen, they have neither money nor power, and so the civil administration, police and other people treat them very shabbily. It is a fact of life. What do you say about this? What are your views, Dharman, sir?
Things have gone from bad to worse as far as the looking after the ex-servicemen are concerned. I recollect very vividly when my dad was in the army. They used to write to the SP and the DC if a Jawan had some land problem or some other issue in the village. And within a month, the reply used to come. That is one of the biggest drawbacks that have taken place in the society today. Nowadays, commanding officers, the men, when Malik brought out one of the most important factors, the human resource, they have to have trust in you. They think that you are a god. That is why they believe that what orders you give them, they will obey without questioning. You know you're sending people in an attack, and you know that a lot of them are not going to come back. But those people never refuse. They go. So that faith over the years is getting eroded. Because now a commanding officer writes to the DC and the SP, there is no reply. And the man comes back after a month, that sir, मेरी बीवी को किसी ने छेड़ा है, मेरे 2 एकड़ ज़मीन मेरी ले गए हैं, but there's nothing we can do.
Absolutely right, sir.
So
Nothing much
this is a bad situation which we must control.
As a matter of fact, I recall that in 1964, I was posted in NIFA. I had a problem and I wrote a letter to Sardar Pratap Singh Kairong, the Chief Minister of Punjab. And within a month, I received a letter from his secretary in Punjabi language that you are invited to come to Chandigarh and meet the Deputy Commissioner at so-and-so time and so-and-so date. That was the kind of response which even the politician gave to the armed forces. Sir, your views about it?
No, I agree with you, sir. But the point is that I think the people generally in the country still have a very noble perception of the armed forces. We talk of 62 operations, nobody blames the armed forces for it. They still say, no, the army did its best, it was the politicians or somebody else who let us down. So therefore, in the people's mindset, we still hold that respect. But yes, you are right that over the years, I mean, that decline has certainly come where you probably have lost that kind of a space, as if I may say, amongst the civilian bureaucrats or other places, and you just mentioned this point. So therefore, to that extent, yes, sir. But I still feel that, I want to mention this point, sir, that sometimes we are to blame. Our own veterans, I mean, amongst my own community, I think rather than coming, on the television with those tilted caps and regalia, we need to put up this thing and don't put up a comic display of partisan kind of leadership that time. That is what is more important. Who will tell?
Have to deserve to.
Who will have to tell the people that,
Yeah.
look, this is what is happening? People don't know about it. So that comic display of those kind of things should not happen, sir. I think what is more important are these issues, which they must highlight to the public at large.
And so my fourth and the last question is about, every year we get so many ex-servicemen who retire, and they retire with all the knowledge, skill, wisdom, training, their loyalty, hard work, integrity, everything. They come out and they can handle any of the issues required for good governance. Any of those issues which are required for good governance, we have the wherewithal and know. But neither the states nor the center. Should something be done about by somebody, people should wake up and say that why not make use of that?
See, as for the man, a Jawan retires somewhere around the age of 35, 36. Some of them even earlier than that. That is the time when he's got small kids. He has to look after them, and he has to now survive with the pension that he has. He needs another job, and he's unable to get it. The government has laid down quotas in the state, in the police, in the civil, and in the central government, but nobody listens to those quotas. I'd like to know which state has filled those quotas. So we need to look after our own people. We've got to see that that man is not unhappy, because if he is unhappy, then we are creating the new lot which are coming, they are not going to be that good. And they will also create problems for us.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I have a little different take on this. I discussed the same issue with my son, who is an associate vice president with Nestle India Limited. And I asked him the same thing, why don't you people take? And he has a point. He said, look, we need skilled people, right? You just can't say, all right, I retire. At best, what we are good for is, we're security guards or security officers, supervisors. That is not what is required.
That is not true, sir. If I may disagree with you.
Sir, you are one of those.
There are people who are post-graduated engineering and management,
Okay.
and so much of.
So very good, sir. If they are qualified, certainly yes. But they have to be skilled for a job that they need to be taken there. Remember one thing, I disagree with the point, sir, that we need reservation. I'm sorry, no, we don't need reservation. What we need is affirmation. It's not a question of reservation. States have given so much reservation to all kinds of people, all classes, So we are not for that. We want people, the companies have to come out and say, right, we have taken so many. People come and talk on the television, do this, so to show patriotism, nationalism, and we need these people. I think they should be named and shamed there. Tell me how many people have you employed in the last 5 years? Those companies must be told. I asked my son, I said, well, how much Nestle has taken in this thing? So it's difficult to. So these things have to be told, sir. But the fact still remains that, yes, we need to be skilled. Now, if you are able to skill an Agnivir in 4 years and make him fit for a job, well, nothing like it. Wait. But the question is a big question mark. Can you do that? Can you skill that man?
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Before I move to the question answer session, sir, may I request you if you kindly throw some light on any of the issues you wish to.
It's very difficult. I don't think I can contradict the panelists, whatever they have said. I can make out they're speaking from the heart and with all the experience that they have. Even if we do not agree with certain issues, like the last one that you just now raised, and General Bhupinder told you that he doesn't agree with the reservation part of it, and he believes in affirmation part of it. Well, there is a lot of truth in that, and there is a thing. The only thing, what I would like to say is that it is not that the governments are not listening, but the government are not paying as much attention to the morale and the functioning of the armed forces as much as they at the lower level. I mean, you were talking about, you're right, that earlier days we used to write a letter. As a company commander, I could write a letter to the DC that so and so John has a problem, and you would get a reply. And a few days back on some issue, I wrote a letter to the Chief Minister. He never bothered to reply that. You know, that is the kind of thing. The Prime Minister has replied some of those things, but the Chief Minister thinks that. So they, again, as I said, these are the kind of issues which need to be brought out in open forums, like you are discussing it today. I'm sure more and more people will hear. So these aspects and what are the implications of that, they need to be. The implications are quite clear that if a Jawan is working, he is posted in Ladakh and he has a problem which is not being answered, somebody has brought it to the notice of the DC or policeman or whoever it is, it will affect his morale.
Yes.
It will affect his efficiency, it will affect his team also. Because we all, depend on each other totally. So I think the answer is to better education of the public, better education of the politician. And this is the point that I had mentioned earlier. While when it comes to your professional responsibility, accountability, it is our job to make sure that you explain the implications of whatever action you are being asked to take. Whatever mission that you have to undertake, you must explain the implications of that to the politician because he may not have that kind of knowledge. But when it comes to the morale of the armed forces or the overall efficiency that we are talking about, then you have to make him aware, maybe through public education, through public awareness. I think ultimately one of the reasons why I started writing books or writing articles as Bhupinder is writing so often is only you want the decision makers and influencers to understand the implications and to understand to be more aware of the armed forces, which is an important issue.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir. I think we have time for just two questions. You have a question, sir? Mr. Vivek Atre has a question, ladies and gentlemen.
I just have a comment actually, and it's something in line with what has been discussed. And being from the other side of the table also, I have this comment. So I think I was the first DC to call on the army commander in Panchkula, the Western Command Army Commander. I don't think any DC has ever done that.
It's okay.
They live in their own silos, and who will call on whom becomes a protocol issue. So I think there needs to be more cohesion at the government level. The government should encourage such interactions. And otherwise, when you have an emergency, then you call in the army and you don't know the person, you never know him. So that kind of one-to-one needs to be encouraged as a systemic change.
Thank you so much. That is why we have very few Vivek Atres in the country. And we have time for just two questions.
Can I just ask you
Yes, Sir,
Sir, I have been a registrar of 3 institutions. That is NIT, IIT, IIIT, and I was basically Vice Chancellor of Punjab University here. And I have been on the panel, 12 years I have served in the civil also, in these positions. And I was on the MHRD panel for selection of administrative staff. Moment you try to select an army personnel who is supposed to be a very efficient person, there is a strong opposition from the panel who is sitting over there. No, we don't want, he will discipline us, he will do this, he will not allow us to do this and that. And moreover, the biggest factor is that it affects their dishonesty levels, because they have to make money from everything. And I went from army, I was overlooked for not doing certain things and not obliging my seniors. And I went to the education department because my father was there in the education department.
thank you, Kalsanu. I think you have a point.
I'll just tell you I am telling you an incident.
that I went to the education department thinking that this will be the most honest because there is nothing to make money. But when I went over there and found the department to be something of that great nature, that an officer who had served with Manmohan Singh called me and told me, Colonel Saab, you have to get this construction done and you have to take money and distribute. And I was shocked that Manmohan Singh's expansion. I told him, sir, I am an officer, not a dalal. Thank you very much.
These are particular, kind of.
I am telling
See,
you
what
creates
with
the degradation.
You definitely have a point. You see, our integrity and discipline is misunderstood and misconstrued by the civilian as an ego issue, which it is not. I mean, we don't have that kind of ego, but we definitely, your discipline, your integrity, loyalty, hard work is drilled into you. You can't forget that. One more question.
Yeah, Colonel Chima, firstly must compliment you on the very incredible questions. Very incredible questions.
Thank you.
And some answers were incredible.
Thank you so much.
But what I would like to ask the two panelists, the national security, armed forces are a major part of the national security. Everybody knows about it. But how come we don't figure as a NSA or a deputy NSA? What is that fear? Because ultimately it's got to be, the armed forces are a major portion. Second, what is the major fear that you have units of the paramilitary forces on the border, active border, and what is the shyness of not placing them under the army command?
Sir, any one of you wishes to take up this?
I think General Malik would be the right person to answer, but I have served in those areas. There was a time, few years back, when the BSF on the border used to be under command of the army. There were portions of the units, certain BSF units were placed under the brigade commander in the valley. But over the years, these things have changed. They want their own powers. I wonder if you know that the BSF, the campus that they have got in Srinagar, in the valley, is much bigger than the div headquarters.
That's right. Yes.
The type of accommodation in the officers' mess, which not more than 2 officers stay, because everybody's got family accommodation. There are 20 rooms constructed. While
no comparisons like
these are all the issues. They want their own independent, domain.
But
they don't want
ITB battalions on the Chinese border not being put under the army command. Are we so ineffective that we cannot convince the politicians in this act?
May I interject, sir? Actually, I feel empire building and that kind of thing is natural, and compartmentalization is happening, and somehow the government is letting it happen. So I think it is an issue which you have. You are right. Thank you so much for your question.
Colonel Chima, maybe one question for Infosys also.
Yes,
I have one question.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So,
welcome.
I heard about the entire discussion, conversation, political people, political leaders influencing army's decisions, army's courage and guts to really push back. I just have been thinking in my mind as a civilian primarily. So, many times we see the relationships between the two countries getting driven by politicians' feelings, favors, basically alignment to one particular thought of ideology. But is there some role which is played by the leaders from our defense forces also? Because someone at heart might, because fight definitely can be one conclusion and not always the right conclusion. Is there a thinking or trying to influence something on building or nurturing those relationships on the positive side also, rather than basically always going ahead and let us be aggressive and fight? Is there a thinking from the heart also on the positive side?
If I may say, sir, that talking on a larger context, the question is, it's a top-down relationship. If the higher-ups accept a strong man who has the courage to speak up, and let's say you have a chief or a CDS or somebody else who can speak up, you should have the moral spine to speak up and tell the government. Now, will the government accept those kind of recommendations? We talk of Field Marshal Manik Shaw. He's a very witty man. If you remember, he once said, if you're out of uniform and you don't know the difference between a gun and a howitzer and a mortar and a motor, or a guerrilla or a gorilla, those men of us resemble the same. So the question is that if you, as an organization, can put across your views and convince the people above. I said it in the very beginning, sir. We have to blame ourselves also to a large extent. That instead of taking some partisan stands on television shows and things, we have to speak of these things. We have to convince our own people that look, this is what is required. We talked about Agniveer. I just said that we got to be participative in that kind of decision making. Right? If we are not participating in that, then why blame the government? I mean, the government will accept a man who says, all right, perfectly fine. But you need a Timaya or you need a Malik Shah who will say, no, this is not correct. It has to be done. And course correction can be done at any time, sir. Even Agniveer is perfectly fine. After a year, you find things are not working out. Correct course.
Thank you.
So I think,
Sir, General Malik has a quite a kindly switch on the mic.
Firstly, I must, I have a lot of regard and appreciation for Infosys, so I must answer you on that. I think armed forces are the last people who want a war.
Yes.
You must remember that. And yes, we are prepared to fight when all other means, as has been said earlier, have exhausted and you have no alternative except to fight a war. Then it's a... So, yes, we do give advice, even at the highest level sometimes, that look, this is not the appropriate time or opportunity to fight a war. Let's try and resolve it the other way. But having said that, some of us have been giving that or have given the advice when we were in a position to do that. But having said that, I must again say what I had said earlier, that we need a little more listening to the people from the uniform when it comes to policy making and decision making. I'm talking of whether it is, the MEA does, it makes most of the advice as far as the foreign relations are concerned, neighboring countries are concerned. And armed forces and the defense and the MEA, these are two sides of the same coin. But unfortunately, one side of the coin is much, much heavier than the other side. So that needs to be leveled.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. You see, my take on this is there used to be time when India as a nation could be hijacked emotionally as well as changed for the better, and hopefully. Would you like to say something, sir?
I'd like to add on to what General Malik has said by quoting personal examples. When I joined the service in 1960, we were posted in Nowshera, that's close to Rajouri in J&K, and we were on the posts. What we used to find that the Pakistanis, the rangers, along with the civilians, used to cross the border, come over to our side, take our cattle, cut our feet, and go back. And in spite of all the patrolling and other things, we were not able to control them. Once or twice when we met them and we tried to fire at them, tried to tell them to please stop. Do you know the words which they used? Oh, रहने दो हिंदुस्तानियों, आपको तो इंदिरा गांधी से परमिशन लेनी पड़ेगी फायर करने के लिए. And it is true. We were not allowed to open fire without referring the case to the higher headquarters. That is even in the rifles and pistols. Those things have all finished. There is far more aggressiveness, far more delegation of power at the junior level, where people are able to take action. That's why you find that these things have almost come to a stand.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. At the end, I must thank Infosys. I wrote one book on knowledge management, and I know that most admired knowledge enterprise prize has been going to Infosys for many years. Am I right, Abhishek? Thank you so much. Thank you, sir.